Namaste and welcome. My name is Payal and I am your host today. Today on the Festival of Bharat talk show, we will be talking about how Bharat can become a superpower in sustainability. You might be wondering how. I'm going to give you a little clue, and that is our culture and our ancient practices, both which are, as you may know, rooted in sustainable ideas and solutions already. So maybe it's easier than we think. So on that note, I'm going to welcome our guest today, who will be talking us through these ideas even more and inspiring us in doing our bit for helping the environment and climate change. So let's welcome Ramprasad.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I'm Ramprasad, and namaste, everybody, and good day to everybody. And thank you, Payal, and thank you to Festival of Bharat. And as the topic was introduced, it's about how to make India a sustainable superpower. And so that's where I will kind of take it up. And, when we look at sustainability actually means that we have to leave the planet for the future generations in a much healthier and a livable state. Think of the planet as your own human body. Just the way you take care of your own human body, you have to take care of the planet in a similar manner. And that will be the focus of my talk on how to repair our planet, how to heal our planet, and how to make it sustainable. So sustainability encompasses four pillars, which is culture, economy, social inclusion, and environment. And these four pillars all are integral to sustainable progress. What has essentially happened in the post-industrial revolution is that we have climbed down the ladder when it comes to sustainable economic progress. Now we need to climb up the ladder. So the objective of my talk is to show you how do we climb up the ladder one rung at a time. So we have gone kind of in reverse gear. Now we have to go in forward gear when it comes to sustainability.
Thank you for that, Ramprasad. I haven't had the opportunity to actually just read out your background. So before you continue, let me just read out, give a little bit more of an introduction to yourself. So Ramji has a graduate degree in economics from Yale University, USA, and an MBA from Madras University. He worked as a global marketing director for a Fortune 100 company in the US prior to his retirement. And he has authored 2 books and has published articles in reputed environmental magazines in Bharat itself. So he comes with a depth of research and knowledge to answer these very important questions today. So on his, so the first question, so you talk about the 4 pillars. So the first question is on the culture pillar, right? And how this can be leveraged for economic progress. So would you like to talk about this?
Yeah, sure, Payal. I think the culture pillar is very important and in fact has been even underemphasized. And just recently, the international organizations introduced culture as the 4th pillar, which actually should have been all along. Sustainability, if you look at sustainability itself, it has been the DNA of our culture right from the very beginning. If you look at all our ancient practices, they were all about sustainability. And that is what I want to emphasize. My talk is going to be on how are we going to leverage each of these pillars to become a superpower. For example, if you look at culture, if you look at our personal hygiene habits, Whether it was having a shower, cleaning our dishes, anything. We never polluted our waters with any chemical agents or anything. Our bath was with a herbal powder, as well as even shampooing with herbal powders, brushing our teeth. So even dishes, we washed it with coconut husk, and so on. Even in our culture, when families had babies, what they used to do is the old sari was used as a hammock, uh, and the hammock actually imitated a mother's womb, so the baby slept well. We never wasted wood to create a crib or a self-rocking crib, which we do nowadays. So the point I'm trying to make is, how do you leverage, whether it is a sari or a coconut husk to clean dishes? A lemongrass oil was used in hospitals for cleaning. It prevented insects from coming in. How do you leverage all this? Maybe you can export the idea of the sari as a crib to global countries, or maybe the coconut husk as a scrubbing agent, or the jute mattresses that people had created for sleeping. So the point is, how do we transition from a consumption-oriented culture to a conservation-oriented culture? And this is a business model. This is a trend that may pick up in the future. Who knows? So we can't live as though we need 6 planets. If we live with a consumption-oriented culture, people do say that we would require 6 planets to live on, and it's not feasible. So let me transition now to food habits. So for example, even in food habits, our culture was completely, even if you look 40, 50 years ago on Wikipedia, 80% of India was vegetarian, and only 20% diet was based upon meat. That has completely changed. It's exactly the opposite today. If you look at the world statistics, there are 3.1 trillion trees on our planet. And the land that is required for those 3.1 trillion trees, the same amount of land is now being used for agricultural purposes. And 80% of that agricultural land goes for livestock, which is basically growing meat for food. Now, what if all of that land was freed up where you don't have to grow meat for food? Then what essentially happens is that land could be utilized for fruit-bearing trees or for so many other things. And all of those trees, maybe we could grow an additional 1 trillion trees or 2 trillion trees. So we could soak up about 200 gigatons of carbon dioxide right from the air. Crowther Labs, which has calculated there are 3.1 trillion trees on this earth. Imagine the same amount of land is being used for agriculture and a lot of it for meat. So, any person, any individual, 2 days you go on fake meat or plant-based meat, 2 days on lab-grown meat, 2 days if you abstain from meat, you will definitely improve the quality of air and so many other things. And I will eventually get to it in the subsequent portion of my talk. But for example, even India, they consume a lot of rice nowadays, but even the way it is produced, it has, it's associated with methane just because of the way it is actually grown. So the point I'm trying to make is millets was 40% of our grain consumption, but now millets have a very low share in our grain consumption. And millets are very healthy. They can grow in cold climates or warm climates. Anybody can look up Dr. Kader Wali. He's nicknamed as the Millet Man of India. and he shows the benefits on different diseases and things like that. Unfortunately, what is happening is the birds are eating, we feed the birds with millets. They are eating more healthier food, and we are eating junk food. So, um, so this was our culture. I mean, I can just go on, but I think people get the idea that there are so many cultural practices we can leverage for the global markets. And people worry about sudden infant death syndrome on a crib. Why not give them a sari to use a hammock? And this is what India did, and that sari was again used as a mop later on. So we never wasted anything. We recycled everything. There are many things we can leverage. So I'll finish there just on the culture pillar.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? This was the most interesting pillar for me because it really is one which can inspire our audience the most. As day-to-day life, you can really look to see when it comes from things which are stem from our culture, how we can utilize those. And I always do feel the Indian culture anyway. We're very much into reusing, which is always a beautiful thing anyway, which in the past it was mocked upon. Now it's more appreciated, right? So already, I hope this is an inspiration and just a starting point for our audience to think beyond how we can we use and think about those Indian practices that we have already. So the next question is on the economic pillar then. So what's your thoughts on the economic pillar?
On the economic pillar, my thoughts are, if we look at the Indian culture, we focused on 5 different elements. That is water, air, our soil, energy, which is fire, and space, the 5th element. So on the economy pillar, whether it comes to national economic planning or the way individuals, the ordinary citizens, think about things, they have to think individually on each of these categories. And the opportunities are just immense. Sustainability will lead us to making our economy prosperous, strong, creating equity. So I want to give very practical examples. So this is a practical talk. Water. Let me start with water, and let me show the average citizen how they can become entrepreneurs in water itself. Thousands and thousands of ideas, but let me start first with water saving technologies, which are non-existent in India right now. For example, why couldn't people do a community-based model where liquid carbon dioxide washer cum dryer can be used to wash our clothes? It extends the longevity. Liquid CO2 is non-toxic, biodegradable, recyclable. And you could have a community-based model that will save 4 to 5 billion gallons of water per day. Similarly, underground leaks in water pipes. You can prevent underground water leaks through miniature robots, and that technology exists. We are building so many roads and highways in India, but what happens is when you put fossil-based asphalt on these roads, it never absorbs the water and recharges our groundwater level. What if you could use permeable type materials to build these highways? And again, I'll just throw some examples because this is what I've come across. For example, tarmac in England, they have material called top mix for covering roads and highways, which absorbs 880 gallons per minute of water. With climate change and flooding, we have to be thinking out of the box. Similarly, I would talk about water ping ideas. For example, how can we lower water pollution? Look at textile dyeing. I mean, 20% of our wastewater is with all chemical dyes. Textile dyeing used to be, we used to get material from the plants and use it as natural dyes. But unfortunately, what has happened, because, as I said, agriculture and meat has taken away that land. There is no more plant dyes to go after. So synthetic chemistry has replaced all the natural dyes, and synthetic dyes are made with petroleum, formaldehyde, benzene, and all kinds of toxic chemicals. Even for making a blue jean, it takes 10,000 liters of water, or a t-shirt, it takes 2,500 liters of water. So what can be done is, let us look at examples of some companies which are now using microbes to make natural dyes. So they use a bacteria, put it in a bioreactor and reproduce. You can look at companies such as Hue, Hue, or Colorifix, Color, IFIX, Vienna Textile Labs. Many companies are there. But when I did an internet search, I've still not come across a company, or maybe it exists in India, that is using microbes to produce more natural dyes that does not pollute the water. So what I'm trying to say is, let us climb the sustainability ladder for economic progress, because this will create multiple opportunities. Look at the tanning industry for leather. Leather tanning is one of the most polluting industry. Groundwater is completely toxic with leather tanning. Look at the company called Modern Meadow, based in New York, and Modern Meadow is growing leather in a lab. So multiple opportunities in this kind of a manner, which I would like to say. And the other point I would like to make is, how can you reduce the water footprint? Water footprint also can be reduced significantly. I told you about meat grown in a lab, because even IPCC, the United Nations organization, says that meat grown for food emits more carbon dioxide than all of the vehicles put together, all of the vehicles in this world put together. So a lot of water is used, a lot of land is used, as I mentioned. So to reduce the water footprint, I'll give you some examples. So all of our textiles, you need a lot of cotton. Growing cotton is, again, a monocultural practice of farming, and we all know monocultural practice of farming is not so good for the environment. There is a company called Gally, Gally, in Boston. They have just started producing cotton in a lab, much faster, significant reduction in the water footprint, almost by 80 to 90%, both of land and water. So cotton in a lab. Coffee. Finland now has experimented how to even grow coffee in a lab, so that we are not using our mountains and hills, which attract so much rain, and we can now start coffee in a lab. The point I'm trying to make here for policymakers and for entrepreneurs is, the more and more you shift high resource intensive crops, or high intensive resource products like even meat, using microbes to grow them, you have an immense opportunity. And people who have started these businesses have started it in a garage. So it could be small scale, spread all across our villages, and it could really give employment to multiple people. I do want to talk also about wastewater. So, for example, Eco STP in the southern India is a wastewater treatment plant that uses zero energy, basically, and mimics what happens in a cow's stomach, and they're cleaning up the wastewater. Similarly, in New Delhi, there is a person by name Madhukar Swayambhu on his platform called Vedic Region. He has shown how we can use Vedic technologies to restore all these dead water bodies. I think there are about 1,000 water bodies in New Delhi itself. And most of these water bodies, they can attract all the pollutants and even clean up the air. So they all interact with each other. All these elements interact with each other. So there is just so many technologies that are out there that we would need to capitalize on. And again, continuing on the economy pillar, I just covered water, but I need to tell you about soil, and I'll be quick. Soil, as you know, Professor Ratan Lal, who won the World Food Prize, basically said that if your soil has to be healthy, you need 3 to 5% soil organic carbon. Basically, if you don't have that soil organic carbon, you don't have any microbes. And microbes are very essential for the soil. Using all those chemical fertilizers, we are making our soil unhealthy. In fact, in some parts of northern India, we have only 0.10% of soil organic carbon. There is Panchagavya. Panchagavya is the 5 elements which come from the cow. It has shown to be a great elixir for soil. Why don't we propagate this? And Professor Ratan Lal has also said that India's topsoil has been completely decimated because of brick manufacturing. And it requires so much heat energy to make bricks. People can start looking at the company called Biomason. Biomason is a company that makes bricks using microbes, naturally occurring microbes. Like this, there are just so many ideas that are out there that we need to look at, and these models do not exist in India. Obviously, there is Vriksha Ayurveda, which improves the soil, regenerative agriculture. We need both conventional as well as non-conventional wisdom to combat climate change and to improve our soil health. Next is air. Air, I have already spoken, which everybody know. The best natural solution for cleaning up the air is basically to grow forests. That's the best natural solution. I mean, as I said, if we can free up our land, we can grow an additional 1 to 3 trillion trees. But this is not happening. I wish the world would look at starting an international forest fund where people take away 10% of their defense budget and allocate it to growing forests. Even in India, for example, Professor Nandita Krishna has written a book called The Sacred Plants of India, and in which she mentions how many of these sacred plants are going extinct in India. Why couldn't every state in India have an objective of creating a national forest with all these trees? So like this, we have to be innovative, and we have to think so innovatively, and they have medicinal use. For example, some of the Ayurvedic hospitals in Kerala, they have their own medicinal farms. I personally have visited one at least 10 times. So they need to grow their own medicinal farms. There is so much opportunity. Why couldn't we have a critical mass, like making even Kerala the Ayurvedic capital of India? And instead of focusing and plagiarizing industrial policies that are happening in other states, look at their own strengths and try to leverage those particular strengths, including homotherapy. Homotherapy was an ancient practice. Just look at the outcome. Don't look at it as a religious practice, and see the website of Dr. Ulrich Burke, who was a student of Vasant Paranjpe, and he's propagating homotherapy, and it has shown immense benefits. And there are documented stories on how some people did Homa during the Union Carbide saga, and were saved. So there is documented evidence on that. So both conventional and non-conventional should be looked at. I am going to talk about energy. The next pillar, still staying on the economic pillar, but energy is a very important element. We all know that India is much dependent on coal, almost 60%. And if you look at nuclear energy only accounts for about 3% for the total energy use. And that has remained pretty constant from 1998. If you look at nuclear itself, nuclear has become extremely safe. I mean, there is a company called X Energy. Look at X Energy. They manufacture 80 megawatt nuclear reactors, and each of these reactors can be transported on a truck, can be made with commercially available materials. Literally, even in a worst case scenario, there is no meltdown. Everything, all radionuclide waste is contained within the plant. And you have 3 to 4 of such 80 megawatt reactors in a village, and it could power the entire village. These technologies exist. They are going to be commercialized very soon, but we need to jump on it. I don't think we should miss the bus on all of these things which I mentioned. We missed the bus on semiconductors or cell phone manufacturing. But these are the things we should look at. Similarly, I'll give you another thought on how we can become a sustainable superpower. If every home in India, right? I know we are talking about solar and so on. Yeah, you can have rooftop solars, but in addition to that, why won't people want to look Aeromine Technologies, AEROMINE Technologies? They have worked with Sandia Nano Laboratories in the United States, and they have come up with a bladeless windmill. It only occupies 10% of your rooftop space, gives you 50% more power than solar, costs about the same, and your electricity bill is lowered. Plus, this windmill is not killing any birds, owls, or bats because it is bladeless technology. And you could be off the power grid, and you could be self-sustained in your electricity needs. The other idea is why, we can even paint our houses with what is called ultra-white paint. Ultra-white paint was invented by Purdue University, and basically it reflects away 95 to 96% of the sunlight. And what they claim is that you don't even need an air conditioner. So many ideas of this nature that we can implement. In fact, Rutgers University also has recently come out with an invention where they create a membrane which separates fresh water and seawater. So before fresh water goes into the seawater, you separate the water with this membrane and exploit the chemical and ionic differences between the salt and fresh water to create more electricity and energy. This way, you don't even need hydroelectric dams, which have also shown to be hazardous for the environment. Next, I would like to talk about the space element. The space element, space element, I think we are doing a lot of damage in the space as well, which needs repair. For example, there are 10 startups with huge funding wanting to mine the moon, because there are metals which are needed for our lithium-ion batteries, for electric vehicles, and so on. And they have huge funding. The Artemis Accords, which was signed in 2020, basically gives rights to different people to go mine the moon. So this is what is happening. The other thing that is happening is the ocean floors are also going to be mined for precious metals like the Clarion-Clipperton Zone. Now, 22 companies are involved, a lot of funding, a lot of money, and as you know, wherever there is a lot of money involved, we are bound to damage even our space frontiers, our ocean frontiers, and destroy the biodiversity on our ocean floors. But there are better alternatives to lithium-ion batteries. For example, in Texas, one of the universities in Texas has come out with a polypeptide, biodegradable, metal-free battery, which is equally efficacious when compared to a lithium-ion battery. So we need to focus on such nature-based solutions rather than brute force technologies and extractive technologies that are destroying destroying the fabric of our earth and our space. And even if you look at our ancient sciences, there was what is called as Dhatu Urja Vidya, which is basically battery technology. So looking at conventional and looking at non-conventional, both on nature-based ways, will provide a lot of solutions. We don't have to run when the next lithium-ion manufacturer comes to India. I've seen like 10 states flocking behind him to set up factories. When we have right under our noses nature-based solutions to look at. Um, so those are the kind of things. So I will stop with the economy pillar pile unless you have questions.
No, I think just you've just given so many great ideas, and again, I'm sure this is just the start. And there's a few things which the one thing which fascinated me the most was about the the blade, the windmill without the blades, and how you can make energy via that. And I wasn't aware of that, and I think there's so much that. So just on that one, there's so much I think out there that people in India are not aware what new technologies from around the world, and of course within themselves, within small projects within India itself, that we need more awareness of. And I think it just is what reminding me that, is there any platform that comes together with all of these ideas? I don't know of one. I don't know if you can answer that before we carry on onto the next pillar.
Unfortunately not. So
Yeah.
I mean, this is all of the things that I'm mentioning, the names of companies and things like that. It's just based on my personal research. I mean, I have no affiliation, no financial interest whatsoever. These are examples that come to my mind. I have many more, but in the time that is required, I cannot list all of them. But I do have other YouTube videos on entrepreneurial ideas, which people are interested, they can listen to. But I try to give more detail of companies and that.
This seems still too fragmented. That's all I can say. And people do need to. We do need platforms which will bring all of these ideas together. Okay, let's move on to the next pillar, which is the social inclusion, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the social inclusion.
Yeah, so social inclusion. The social inclusion pillar is very important because the common theme of social inclusion pillar, or the lowest common denominator in social inclusion pillar, is that treat others like you would like to be treated yourself, right? I mean, this is not just common sense, but this is common to every single religion. This is, whether you take any religion, every religion, including the thoughts of Confucius, he also mentions this. Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, it's just common principle in every religion. So that being said, now people can ask me, well, how do you apply it in practical terms? Now, I explained so far about the economy pillar and all the 5 elements in the economy pillar and what people can do about it. Now, let's look at the social inclusion pillar. Now, in order to support that economy pillar, you have to look at your current educational system, because the current educational system, when people's lives are enriched, when people's lives, you give them more fulfillment, there will be more inclusiveness. What I'm trying to say is that if you have a pyramid, the base of the pyramid, I would say 50 to 60% should be skill-based. Your education should be skill-based and a skill-based workforce. Skills in every single area, whatever it is, in all the 5 elements. The next level on the pyramid, about 20% should be entrepreneurs, leaders, business people. And the pillar above that should be defense, about 10%. And the next 10%, the top apex of the pillar, is wisdom thinkers, holistic thinkers, integrative thinkers, not reductionist thinkers, where people are thinking about the planet as a whole and planning technologies that repair the planet, that help and heal the planet. That is where I'm kind of going. And if you look at the current educational system in India, and you say, are we taking care of the pyramid in this kind of a fashion? And the answer is no, because if you look at, there has been an article in Times of India, June 3rd, 2022, on the vocational and technical education in India. So if you look at the age group 19 to 24, less than 5% of the 19 to 24 people go for Indian technical institutes or polytechnics to get a vocational education. Compare that same age group to United States. It's 52% get vocational technical education in that age group. It is 75% in Germany, 96% in South Korea. Now, if you compare that to history, you know, even before England started its first school or learning institute, India had 720,000 Gurukulas, Patashalas, and most of them, while offering body, mind, and soul training, they were offering skill-based education. It met the societal needs. So our education has to meet the societal needs. It's not that one level is more important than the other. They are all equally important, just like in a human body, your legs and hands and eyes and nose, each one has a different function. They are all important and they support the whole body. So in the same manner, we should be thinking about our educational system in that kind of a manner. Even in India, 21% of the women participate in the labor force compared to 70% in China. All that I have been saying so far create employment opportunities while cleaning up our earth and our planet and creating many opportunities within India itself. So I will stop with the social inclusion pillar unless you have questions.
Okay, no, really, I mean, I find that really interesting, and it's something very, very close to me on the educational aspect, and I totally agree on that. So, you know, some valid points you've made on that pillar too. Let's move then on to the final pillar, which is the environmental pillar, right?
Yes. The environment pillar is very important. And, you know, what I would like to say is every pillar that I discuss, there is an environmental component blended into each of those pillars. But again, when we think about environment, probably everybody has heard about the ESG metric. ESG, many corporations are adopting this metric, which is called environment, social, and governance, ESG. You know, even in financial reports, companies are trying to embrace the ESG concept. My feeling is, why should only corporations embrace this? I would like that every state government in India or in the world, every state or province, whatever they have, they should embrace the ESG concept, and they should show on their website, you know, what are they doing on the E, which is environment? What are they doing on the 5 elements? They can have a simple metric: quality of water or quality of air, how many carbon dioxide parts per million, or soil, how much should be the you know, soil or organic content, so on, and make themselves accountable for those metrics on the social side, on the governance side, and make it transparent to the public. So as individuals, when I worked in a company, I have a set of objectives that I have to meet those objectives. Why can't we have a set of ESG objectives for every state government? In fact, every individual should have his own ESG objectives and adhere to that. That's what I would say on the environment. The other thing I would like to say on the environment is, you know, you look at a country like Costa Rica, which doubled its forest cover from 25 to 60% actually in a matter of 40 years. Look at Bhutan, which says in its constitution 60% of their country should be with forest cover. I mean, they declare themselves as a carbon, not only a carbon neutral, but a carbon negative country. So each state in India should think of itself like as though they are a country and basically achieve those kind of objectives and move forward on the environment ladder in that particular manner. So hopefully I've covered all the 4 pillars, and I'll take any questions.
Yeah, just on the last on environmental, I think in Bharat, I mean, right now there's always this conflict between development versus what you're saying. So there's always conflict of cutting down trees so that you can build a road or build a train track or something. So what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, as I said, there are many parallel things that need to go on. One of them, as I mentioned, in the culture pillar on food habits. If you reduce your food habits, you are freeing up so much other land just by reducing your meat consumption. A lot of land is freed up. Then you can have more trees there, and maybe then you can still have your highways. So we have to make the right trade-offs. It is not like government is responsible for everything. We as individual citizens have a role to play in each of those things. I mean, education has to change. For example, climate science and true biology is not even taught in our institutions. Even most physicians are even not aware that the human digestive anatomy is completely herbivore. It's not carnivore. Whether you take the intestinal length of the intestinal tract, the pH acid in the stomach, the jaw structure, tooth structure, not only did our sages say this, it's all documented evidence, but anybody can go and download Humans Are Naturally Plant Eaters in-depth article by Michael Bluejay on the net, and they will see a summary table that shows, based on all scientific evidence, so God has created this kind of a balance, and we have lost that sense, and that's why we are facing all of these problems, because we think in intellectual manner, but not in a wisdom-oriented manner.
That actually beautifully brings me on to my next question, which is on Dharma and what it means being dharmic and being and living consciously, gearing towards making, ensuring that every solution that you create is sustainable. Would you say that being dharmic is being sustainable? Do you think those two go hand in hand?
Absolutely, they do go hand in hand. And if you look at, how do I say this? You reap what you sow. You plant an apple seed, you'll get an apple tree, and you extract fossil fuel, you'll get carbon dioxide in the air. So you will reap only what you sow. Dharmic is basically respecting all the elements, healing all those elements, repairing all the elements that I spoke about. Just keep those 5 elements in mind. We personified these elements. We gave a personality to each of these elements, and we worship them as even deities in the Hindu Dharma culture. So dharma and sustainability do go hand in hand, in my opinion.
Yeah, mine too. So I just wanted to clarify with someone who's so knowledgeable on this area. Actually, moving on with the same things, I know so many people who are dharmic, but they say actually there's no climate emergency. They don't feel that there is. What's your thoughts on this? Is there a climate emergency, or is this being just hyped up by people and activists?
I think there is climate emergency. I mean, even if you ask anyone, I mean, when they switch on their TV 40 years ago to today, I mean, it's almost like every single day there is some kind of a climate disaster or a hurricane or a tornado or a flooding or a landslide. It's there on the news every single day. I mean, I never heard climate disasters as much as I hear today on the news. And this is not my experience. This is the experience of every average citizen. I mean, you feel the heat. I mean, people are talking about uh, heat waves and the forest fires, wildfires, everything. You just have to look at the news and turn on your TV and tell me that you're not hearing of climate disaster on an everyday basis.
Agreed, agreed. I mean, I feel that Dharma is right now in passive aggressive mode and is, getting angrier and angrier. And I think it is time that we start reversing all our doings from the past, our solutions, which were out of, in short, they're all about human convenience, right? So it's that balance between human convenience and now finding solutions to our conveniences. You always thinking through with more sustainable ideas. So yeah, I think it's karmic. It's karmic what's happening, I guess, in the on Earth right now. So on the same thing, a lot of people, on a superficial level, places like India, you go there, you visit there. I've lived there. You see a lot of pollution, right, in the big cities, Mumbai, Delhi, and so on a superficial level, it feels like it is countries like Bharat who is causing the most harm to the environment. But as far as I have read, actually, it's the developed nations who are causing more harm. So what's your thoughts on this? You live in the US, so maybe you can give a bit of an insight on what's going on there.
I think to some extent, what is happening is the argument is kind of we are deflecting the argument. I mean, I am not going to say if my neighbor's house is uncluttered and somebody's not keeping things organized, that I should do the same thing with my own house. I mean, I should rather set an example for myself. Actions speak louder than words. So if India took the approach of saying, oh, it's developed nations are causing more harm than I'm doing, there is no solution. There is absolutely no solution. I think we should do our part. As I said, you only reap what you sow. And if everybody does their part without, I mean, Costa Rica and Bhutan are not complaining, jumping up and complaining. I mean, they are saying, hey, Bhutan is saying I've become carbon neutral and even carbon negative. They are setting an example being a small country without saying the developed nations are causing more harm. So we need more examples like this. And those kind of examples are inspiration. They build a critical mass and they would improve our country as well as every other country in the world.
Absolutely. I think you've said that really well. Really well put. So any concluding remarks before we close?
Yeah, my concluding remarks are sustainable technologies, which I have presented so far, create equity. They create a lot of equity. I mean, it's not that certain sections of the people become rich, certain sections of they are very decentralized businesses. Every business that I spoke about is decentralized. They repair all the 5 elements. It increases participation of the labor force, the way I've spoken about education and so on, and the social inclusion pillar. Once we focus on these things, and I think I have built a story to show you or to put forth a template, a process template on how we can actually get there. But it's impossible for me to do in the hour that I had. But hopefully I touched on some points. Don't rely on brute force technologies. Even if we talk about foreign direct investment, don't be, enamored with those kind of words. Look at foreign direct investment in knowledge. Startups are doing many things. Many businesses that I'm speaking of are going under the radar. So look for things that are going under the radar, and it's cheaper. Your resource allocation as well. If you implement what I'm trying to say, then there won't be a flow of people from the rural to the urban areas. We don't even have to think about building 200 more smart cities. We can make 200 more smart villages, and that's what we need to aim at doing. And if we concentrate correctly on each of the pillars of sustainability will definitely lead not only India but every other country to a completely new level, providing equity and prosperity for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasadji. I think you made some valuable points, and I think this will be very inspirational to the audience. I think sometimes we will run out of ideas on what to do, and I think just given many new ideas, which I hope people will follow through and start implementing, whether it's in their daily lives, through businesses, makers. There's so much they need to do also. So thank you very much. So on that note, thank you to the audience for listening, and if you have enjoyed this talk, do not forget to subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you again on some other videos. Thank you.
Namaste. We hope you enjoyed this Chitti Media content. Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.